G'day subscribers, today we're going to talk about the data and details on your FJ Holden. You're with Jules Knight and our new apprentice Elodie on Jive Talking Garage. So if we think about what most owners want to know, they want to know details of the firewall plate. They want to know details of the little tag in between the two bolts for the front end on the chassis tag. And also the engine number that sits near the dipstick. So they're all the sorts of things that give you the details of the car. So if we talk about the build plate that's on the firewall first, it's got the style first, with it 48215 from 28th of November 1948 onwards. Then in the beginning of 1951, they released the FX or 48 Ute, which was a designation of 52106. And then in 1953, toward the end of the run of the 48 model, they released the 48217, which was a business sedan, as they were getting ready to produce the FJ. So for all intents and purposes, for what I'm interested in is the FJ. So October 1953, the FJ came out. So on the plate itself, it'll be FJ 215, because 215 is for a standard. 217 is for a FJ business sedan. The 2106 is for the FJ utility. So that was really just the facelifted introduction of a more luxurious or a more modernized front and interior from the 48 model for the FJ, and they all came out together in 1953 in October. So 2 months later came the all-new panel van. They didn't have a panel van before then, and so the Ute was the 2106 and the panel van was the 2104. So we'll have a look at the ID plate on my car. So looking at that, you've got FJ 2104, because it was originally birthed as a panel van, and then its production number, what it was put together. Gee whiz, let's say 4,103, and then the A after it is for Adelaide. It was made in Adelaide, in Woodville. So on the next line, you've got trim. And in my case, it's 157-505, which is Lagoon Green. And I've also got the Water Wave hood lining. But yeah, really lovely choice of colour combinations in the early Holdens, and lovely pastel colours. And then after that, the next line is paint. And in my case, 256-7471, and that is Ocean Mist Green. So let's just have a look at Ocean Mist Green for a moment. That's in nitrocellulose lacquer. So the next line on the compliance plate. Now I've seen two. I've seen RPO, which is a regular production option, and then followed by top, or in some cases, I've seen accessories and top. Now on mine, it's got RPO, and RPO could be the number if the customer had ordered a baker's van, for instance. Well, that would be 265 stamped on there. There are a myriad of regular production options that Holden had, and that's where they put what it was, and that's where they put it. So if it was a baker's van, they would stamp in there 265, and that way everyone knew, okay, well, that one has to have the timber partition put behind the driver's cabin on top of the bulkhead to separate the cargo area from the cabin, and that looked pretty good. Now, if it was a two-tone special, for instance, they could have top, the paint number for the top half of the FJ stamped in there. And the other piece you see for accessories, they didn't ordinarily put any accessories in there. However, sometimes you could see the month. Like, for instance, I've just seen a car come through, and it was stamped 7 for July of 1954. So that tells you the month that it was made. So that's a good thing. So it's giving you the month. Now, for the 48, and I'm not an expert on 48, so please don't quote me, but the earlier models had the tag on the A-pillar, where the front of the door met the A-pillar. So you had a tag mounted there. But with an FJ, it was mounted to the driver's side subframe, that chassis rail that goes through underneath on the subframe. Earlier on at first release, it could be a little bit forward of the bolts, but ordinarily what I've seen is between the two bolts. So the tag on my ute, so that's the tag that's brazed in between the two bolts, was 4.4403.B. And what that was meaning was, the 4 was the year it was assembled. The 4403 was the number sequentially that was assembled for it. And then the B, the .B, was that it was assembled in Brisbane. So that would have been at the Fortitude Valley factory assembly plant at in Wickham Street. So that's what those three sets of pieces of data mean. In my case, 4.year, 4403 was the sequential number, and then .B just tells you when. So the next piece is you will find the engine number, and that's stamped on the pad that sits in front of the dipstick. Now, with the engine numbers, you had ordinarily just the number itself, starting 1001 and going up, but in some cases there was a prefix letter added to them as well. So you see that too. Now, there will be some that don't have an engine number. Ordinarily they would, and they did. And this was because that when NASCO, the parts and accessories division of Holden, supplied a brand new short motor, it did not have an engine number on it. So you would take your engine out or have it taken out. You would put the brand new short motor in. So that's from the sump up to the top deck of the block, and then you would put your head or a reconditioned head or another head on that block. And so it was provided without any numbering, so it was just blank on that surface in front of the dipstick, in front of the distributor. So you take it to your police station, and in my case, the engine that came with mine when I got them. So I've got a few here, but that one is V for Victoria, and then a number, which was the next number out of their book, and then the year 62 or 63, whatever the stamp was, and then P for police. So it was the state, and I've seen Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, N for New South Wales, Q for Queensland, and so on, and then P at the end of them. So that's how that works. But as far as some castings are concerned, I've seen some later model grey motors, and they have a series of alpha and numerics on the side of the block, and that's a smart thing to read, because in a case where, for example, forward of the dipstick it says A30 space 3, well, the alpha is for the month. A is January. The 30 is the day in January that it was cast. And in that case, the 3 is 1963, because, don't forget, grey motors went from, 1948 with a 48215 through to EJ. So you could see anything in an early model Holden. You just had to have your wits about you as far as what engine you might find in your early. Well, there you go. That's a little bit about the data that you can use to assemble the birth certificate for your early model Holden. I hope I've covered a lot of bases, but there's people out there better than me. Gary Allen is by far the best I've seen. Gary's excellent in how he helps people in the early Holden movement and providing information and also reporting details. So I really take my hat off to Gary. And not only that, he's a gentleman and he's just trying to help people. So anyway, there you go. Jive Talking Garage. Don't forget, share, like, and subscribe. But more importantly, enjoy your Holden.